The coal mining industry is undergoing a period of immense change. Both employers and employees agree the mines must increase productivity to compete in a progressively competitive overseas market. The Coal Industry Tribunal believes the way forward is award restructuring, increasing workers' skills with the incentive of bigger pay packets. Sorting out the details, however, is proving a predictably tricky job.
We're not in the game for multi-skilling for the basis of de-skilling people. There has to be a marriage of some cross-skilling with the vertical path so that people can be rewarded for the additional skills that they achieve by way of training.
Several Hunter mines lay idle today as AMWU workers attended mass meetings at Singleton and Curry. Union organisers sought and received endorsement for an award restructuring document to present to the New South Wales Coal Association and the Coal Industry Tribunal. The coal companies, however, are believed to be reluctant to accept the proposal, wanting far greater flexibility from the mine workers. With that in mind, the meeting also passed a motion endorsing 48-hour stoppages if the companies refuse to negotiate.
The coal owners seem to be very reluctant to participate in any movements without some sort of struggle.
The AMWU is a relatively small union on the mine sites, but as its members carry out maintenance work, a stoppage would very quickly close down many mines. The union meets with the New South Wales Coal Association tomorrow.
This broken stormwater drain at the northern end of Newcastle Beach is the source of the latest pollution scare for the city's beaches. Last Friday, a routine test by Newcastle City Council revealed abnormally high levels of faecal coliform, a matter normally found in sewage. A subsequent inspection of the spot itself found the drain to be emitting far more than just the stormwater runoff it was supposed to be. Instead, warm water was found to be gushing from it. That led to hurried investigations, and yesterday afternoon, City Council declared the source of that warm water to possibly be the laundry at Royal Newcastle Hospital. As to the source of the sewage, Council admitted it had no ideas. But today, a clearly disturbed hospital executive officer, Stephen Bout, said he wasn't willing to accept the Council's conclusions without further analysis.
We basically still don't know where it's coming from, so we've arranged today for the Water Board, the local council and the state health inspectors to do further tests. We're rushing those through, and so we should know on Thursday morning when that particular test will be through and what the results are. It could be animal faeces, for example, coming off the roofs of the buildings in the surrounding area or off the hospital, so we'd want to investigate all those possibilities.
If, however, the results of those tests expected tomorrow afternoon do point towards the hospital, further investigations will take place, including placing dye samples in the various possible sources. Meanwhile, City Council today admitted it is still no closer to tracing the source of the sewage leak. More samples taken from the site have been sent for testing by the government analyst in Sydney. Council officers did make a search of the hospital grounds today, but found nothing untoward.
The John Darling Colliery was the first mine established by BHP. Operational for more than 60 years, mining ceased 2 years ago. Now BHP Collieries has applied to have the 25-hectare site rezoned to allow residential development. Last night, Lech Macquarie Council deferred BHP's application, pending a geophysical survey.
We want to be absolutely sure that the mining that's taken place on that area would not have an adverse impact on the future housing development.
A further complicating factor is the heritage value of the old mine. However, both BHP and Council are confident key historic features could be incorporated into the subdivision.
John Darling Colliery has been identified as a heritage item, but I think that could be overcome by if the company was prepared, as I understand they will be prepared, to leave the poppet head there in with a park.
If the rezoning is granted, it's unlikely that BHP itself will become involved in developing the subdivision. A spokesman for the company said the desired rezoning would simply open up further options for the site of the disused mine. Over the next 2 months, Roads and Traffic Authority observers will monitor traffic flow around Raymond Terrace. The information gathered will help determine the solution to the town's traffic problems. The highway is a constant traffic stream through residential areas. In peak times, the flow slows to a crawl. Residents fear the government wants to push ahead with plans to upgrade the road to 4 lanes. These fears prompted the formation of a pressure group to lobby for what is seen as the only acceptable solution.
A bypass, a road that deviates the traffic that's passing through the township around the township. They do not have to enter the town, they're not slowed down by traffic lights, they don't place the local residents at risk. That to us is the only solution.
The Bypass Action Group has marshalled widespread condemnation of the RTA upgrading proposal. Each submission will be used as ammunition in their campaign for a bypass.
A lot of them feel and agree with us that the whole idea of upgrading the highway through Raymond Terrace to 4 lanes is utter stupidity.
An RTA spokesman says the authority's present strategy is to upgrade the highway at Raymond Terrace to 4 lanes prior to beginning an eastern bypass. The information gathered from the present survey would be contained in a report to be released mid-1990. Leslie Robinson, NBN News. The man who's been credited with helping change the face of Eastern Europe is expected in Maitland next April. Wałęsa's visit will be a dream come true for the Hunter Valley's 6,000-strong Polish community. The Maitland Polish Association hardly dared hope their invitation would be accepted, but the Sydney Solidarity Office has now confirmed Wałęsa will include Maitland on his itinerary. What will the visit mean to the local Polish community?
We will be mostly honoured in the first place, that something like that. Then you will realise that he is flesh and blood, just like us, all of us here, and a man that has put Europe in completely different perspective is coming here and is going to talk to us.
A civic reception is planned for Wałęsa's 2-hour visit, and as Felix Dangle predicts, those 2 hours are bound to be memorable.
Those things don't happen every day. This is once in your lifetime that you will see. And all those happenings in Europe that we see are perhaps related to him. And to see him there, you read this in books, in history books, people that have changed the world. And he's one of them. It will be very emotional indeed.
Police and detectives recovered about 30 X-rated videos from an alleged under-the-counter selling racket. Police say many of the videos were taken from the charged man's home after he was escorted to a house in Hamilton. However, it's alleged they were being sold from a shop on the western end of Hunter Street. It's the first time local licensing police have made an arrest under the Film and Video Classification Act, which outlawed the sale of X-rated videos about 5 years ago. Inspector Ian Cleary says the raid followed lengthy surveillance.
One of our own police went in there on surveillance work and became aware that what was going on and brought the information back to us. So it didn't come back to us through the public, it became through our own internal inquiries.
Do you feel that this operation might have been going for some time?
No, I believe it's only been going a short time, otherwise we would have known about it. So it's only a recent event and I think we've overcome it now. But I think it should be a warning to others in this area. If they have a similar operation, they'll be dealt with very harshly.
Possession of X-rated videos for personal use is not an offence, however it is illegal to sell the videos. If convicted, the man police arrested today could face fines of more than $100,000.
It's believed the rock fall caused a huge rush of air which propelled the Belmont man 10 metres into a pile of machinery. He was stabilised on the pit top by paramedics and then airlifted, suffering severe chest and head injuries. While the helicopter was on its mercy dash, a cheque for $270,000 was being handed over by Tony Gibson of Westpac to the Rescue Service Chairman Scott Derwin. Supporting the handover was little Danielle MacDonald, whose life was saved by the helicopter service nearly 3 years ago. After her birth at Scone Hospital, Danielle was pronounced dead from heart and lung failure. The helicopter was already on its way, and a doctor on board opted to keep going. Ultimately, Danielle was revived and recovered. This year's donation from Westpac is an increase of $25,000 on last year, providing around 1/3 of the funding necessary to keep the service operating. Until this afternoon, 493 people had been rescued this year by the service. Now the figure stands at 494.
In 1985, the controlling body for the race club, the Wyong District Agricultural Association Committee, was discharged as the club started to slide into debt through overcommitment and high interest rates. A new committee was appointed and has since set about upgrading the course proper, paceway and greyhound track. Wyong Race Club Secretary Manager John Varley says the gamble to spend money and improve the track started to pay dividends last year.
There was big money invested on course. There was nearly $3 million on course itself on the Cup day, and over $9 million for the two-day carnival, all told, off course and on course.
The renewed interest in the club resulted in a 1988-89 profit of more than $500,000. Their profit comes after the wettest 12 months in Wyong's history. In spite of the wet conditions, the club lost only 2 meetings during the year. The profit will also enable the club to begin construction of a new $6 million grandstand in February, after it was thought building would be delayed due to a shortage of funds.
We've got the training facilities right, the course proper's right. Now we're turning to the public and we're putting a new grandstand, $6 million job.
Meanwhile, the Newcastle Jockey Club today announced a big jump in next year's prize money. It's now up to $482,000. The money will be spread over Broadmeadow and Cessnock races and Beaumont Park dog meetings. Jockey Club Secretary-Manager Terry Smith says an incentive for trainers will also be offered.
Well, yes, there's a trainer's bonus of $3,000 for anybody that can train a treble at Newcastle in the months from the 1st of January for 3 months. And we're hoping that that will engender good nominations from within and outside the area.
Chris Conrick took on the challenge to record the area's surf history, spending hours every day poring over old newspapers, association minutes, and talking to surf life-saving old-timers to produce an accurate account. The book, titled The Northern District Lifesaver, was officially launched today at Town Hall. The 280 pages contain 120 photos and outlines how the surf life-saving movement developed in the area and some pleasant anecdotes.
Not many people realise that as recent ago as the mid-1930s, you were not supposed to sunbake on the beach. You had to go inside the surf pavilion and sunbake in the special area. And you could be ordered off the beach. Men were ordered off the beach for wearing shorts. Of course, World War II changed all that.
2,000 copies have already been produced and are being delivered to bookstores and newsagents across the area. While the book concentrates on the history, it also makes it, because it is the first publication in the country to detail the history of a surf life-saving association.
Whitten snatched the New South Wales featherweight crown from fellow Novocastrian Craig Peavy in May of this year in what has been labelled as one of the best fights seen in our town for some time. Since then, Whitten has travelled to Hawaii to mix it with the WBC International Super Bantamweight champion Paquito Opino on the 27th of September and went down on points. His opponent next Wednesday, Diego Duran, has never been stopped and has had 18 wins from 24 fights. For Witten's trainer Wal Bentley, Duran will be one tough cookie.
He's tough, they're all tough, but he's a swarming type of fighter. They all fight close in. I mean, there's no story about Filipino fighters. You could put them in a telephone booth and they'd still fight. They'd have plenty of room to fight.
Witten is 20 fights for 16 wins and a draw and realises this is his most important bout to date.
I've fought for the Australian title twice and it's eluded me, and hopefully third time lucky.
Queensland's Test players limbered up on linking with their teammates. Ian Healy practised glove work, while Australian captain Alan Border headed for the nets in a short time batting. Carl Rackerman was quite content to roll his arm over and iron out a few kinks. But for Craig McDermott, it was a chance to put in a solid session after yesterday's debacle at the university nets. And he really did work up a head of steam. McDermott was also on fire here 2 years ago and is hoping to get amongst the wickets again to remind the Aussie selectors he's still around. For New South Wales, Mark Taylor also had time to get in some valuable practice after making only 9 in Perth. And Steve Waugh showed that he's determined to notch a big score. And a man that is all primed up for a big showing is fast bowler Michael Whitney, overlooked for this year's Ashes tour. Number 1 is a favourite hunting ground for the likeable Whitney, and Captain Jeff Lawson is aware that Whitney wants to sound a message to anyone who will look and listen.
Well, Mike's always out to prove something. I mean, he's been bowling very well this year, bowled superbly last year, and hopefully his performance will help us win the game. But if he continues on in the same vein that he's been in, I think he'll perform very well.
The pitch is grassy and should provide plenty of entertaining cricket. For Lawson, it's always been a good wicket.
Well, it's always been pretty good. We've had some very good games of cricket in Newcastle. It's been a little bit in it for the faster bowlers and spun a little bit on occasion, and that gives everyone a chance. And as I say, it's normally a pretty good game of cricket here, and with a lot of quality players on show, I think it'll be another pretty good game.
John Smythe, our new secretary, will be conscripted tonight. When you speak, like I said before, to tell us your name already.
That was the initial, and it's become increasingly expressed the fact that they would not attend to.
Ticket number 54 and 58, please come together, please, 54.
The aim of World AIDS Day is to get people talking about one of the globe's greatest health issues. Taking the information to the streets, AIDS counsellors are hoping to break down taboos which are hindering a proper understanding of the disease.
Well, we've got to waylay some of the myths that are there, such as you can get it from mosquitoes and cockroaches and things like that.
In 1981, AIDS was a relatively uncommon disease. Only 159 cases were recorded worldwide, but 6 years later that number had blown out to 74,000. Health authorities say unsafe sex practices and the sharing of needles are two major problems behind the spread of the disease. Dr. David Sutherland from Newcastle Hospital said hundreds of people in the Hunter are infected with AIDS. Thousands have the HIV infection, and Dr. Sutherland predicts the problem will increase.
This is going to cost us all. Before too long, we will all know someone affected by this epidemic, but there are also social and financial implications that will affect all of us.
Counsellors today encouraged people who are practising unsafe sex or sharing needles to contact Newcastle Hospital for an AIDS test. The residents confronted Newcastle Police Superintendent Russ Cook, saying they fear for their safety. At present, 3 officers work shifts in Stockton that usually leave the area without policing after midnight. The murder of teenager Lee early last month has made people tense, and Lee's stepfather, Brad Shearman, called for the police to reassure the community.
That is their job, to adequately man
a community so that the people are protected.
In response to this, Police Superintendent Cook told the audience he could not justify a resident officer in Stockton, as Mayfield Police Station, which operates 24 hours, is just 10 minutes away. Superintendent Cook said other areas were faced with similar waiting time for police support.
Newcastle, though, managed to escape the deluge that hit the Central Coast. 31 millimetres of rain was recorded at Maryville in the 6 hours to 3 o'clock this afternoon. However, most of that did come in one torrential downpour which hit just before 1 o'clock. It left many of the city's streets awash. At the entrance to BHP at Tyres Hill, the industrial highway was transformed into a lake. The roadway was covered with water more than half a metre deep, marooning some vehicles and severely hampering the flow of traffic. Elsewhere, many of the suburban streets were flooded as drains were unable to cope with the massive downpour. The walls of Charlestown's Hilltop Plaza were virtually turned into a waterfall at the peak of the storm. There was no damage there, however others were less lucky, with reports of a roof collapse in the nursery section of Kmart at Waratah. Police around the region, though, reported a surprisingly accident-free day, with minor delays the only real effect on the roads. The freak weather was the result of an upper air disturbance, but according to NBN weatherman Nat Jeffrey, the worst is over, with the rain easing tonight and tomorrow.